Welcome, brave viewers, to the Spooky Channel, your gateway to the eerie and enigmatic realms that exist beyond the mundane world. Join us as we delve into the most mysterious and ominous corners of our planet, unearthing secrets and uncovering chilling stories that will send shivers down your spine. Asylums are one of the scariest places in this very earth, and some anecdotes about these places surely does not help. Today we will be talking about 5 abandoned mental hospital stories. Don't forget to blink. Restless. The Sai Ying Pun Mental Hospital in Hong Kong has a dark and disturbing history that continues to attract those seeking thrills and a brush with the paranormal. Originally constructed to house European nurses, it was transformed into a place of death and horror during World War II when Japanese troops took over and used it as an execution hall. Legend has it that countless prisoners of war were killed here, leaving behind a residual energy that lingers to this day. After the war, the estate was repurposed as a mental hospital, but it was eventually abandoned in 1961 and suffered severe damage from 2 fires. Despite the passing of time, strange sightings continue to be reported by visitors to the Sai Ying Pun estate, which has been dubbed a High Street Ghost House. Some claim to have seen a ghostly figure dressed in traditional robes running towards them, only to suddenly burst into flames. Others have witnessed headless figures running down the hallways, believed to be the spirits of the executed prisoners of war. The eerie atmosphere of the Sai Ying Pun estate is heightened by the sound of a woman's loud cries and the echoing boom of footsteps that seemingly come from nowhere. Despite the darkness of its past and the paranormal activity that still occurs there, the High Street Ghost House remains a popular spot for ghost hunters and thrill seekers who dare to explore the abandoned property and uncover its mysteries. Come through if you dare. The eerie history of the Waverly Hills Sanatorium is truly spine-chilling. The White Death tuberculosis was a terrifying disease that took hold of Louisville, Kentucky, during the early 1900s, leaving countless victims in its wake. As the disease ravaged the population, Waverly Hills Sanatorium became the last hope for many patients seeking treatment. However, despite being one of the best hospitals at the time, the treatments administered to patients were far from orthodox. In fact, they were downright creepy. Patients were subjected to unorthodox and often cruel treatments that are now considered barbaric. For instance, they were left by open windows in freezing winter weather and scorching summer heat, causing them to suffer even more. But it doesn't stop there. Some patients underwent horrific surgeries, such as nerve-crushing and rib removal procedures that were thought to help alleviate the symptoms of tuberculosis. Some were even subjected to having balloons implanted in their lungs in an attempt to collapse the diseased portion of the organ. When tuberculosis was no longer a threat, Waverly Hills was converted into the Woodhaven Geriatric Sanitarium. Unfortunately, the treatment of patients was just as bad, with rumors of elderly mistreatment and regular electroshock therapy. The facility was eventually condemned in 1982, leaving behind a property of ghostly legends. Visitors who explore the 5th floor often report feelings of paranoia and anxiety, possibly due to the previous staff as much as the patients. Room 502 is particularly notorious, with tales of a nurse's suicide and a voice commanding visitors to leave immediately. Other ghost sightings include a white-coated chef, a boy with a leather ball, and a woman with bleeding wrists pleading for help. Despite skepticism, there is ample video evidence supporting these paranormal claims. Hell on Earth. Spanning across 770 acres, the Fairfield Hill State Hospital in Newtown, Connecticut, opened in 1931 to tackle overcrowding in other state hospitals. To outsiders, it looked like a charming place to stay, but in reality, it was a den of insane misery and unspeakable cruelty towards the disabled. Highly invasive brain surgeries like lobotomies were performed in patients, along with hydrotherapy, where a patient was forcibly submerged in a warm bath that could last for hours or days. In the dark, quiet rooms, patients were often restrained and left with no other forms of stimulation. not even allowed to use the bathroom, and when the hospital finally closed its doors in 1995, stories of strange happenings flooded the small city. The abandoned area became a local hangout for members of a satanic cult and a hunting ground for a young female ghost dressed in all white. Witnesses reported seeing her stare through a particular window with a glowing light behind her. Like Kentucky's Waverly Hills Sanatorium, Fairfield Hills State Hospital had a series of underground tunnels that linked the 16 buildings, providing a way to move staff, patients, and corpses from building to building without causing disturbance. However, these tunnels were also the source of many paranormal encounters, with screams and strange noises emanating from them. These encounters were so frequent that the tunnels have since been completely filled in. Despite the steep penalty, some daring explorers break into the property and have reported experiencing eerie encounters. So if you're thinking of exploring the Fairfield Hills State Hospital for yourself, think again. Home. Built in 1858 on the backs of prisoners, the Trans-Allegheny Asylum is a Gothic building that housed inpatients a year before the end of the Civil War. Situated on the 666 acres of land, this place is now infamous for its haunting history. Patients were treated terribly, often locked in cages and left to rot in their own filth, chained and forgotten until they withered away and sometimes even died. In just a few decades, staff began to hear screams coming from unoccupied areas and experience other strange ghostly sightings. Laughter and painful groans were often heard coming from empty floors. By the 1950s, the asylum was housing more than 10 times its maximum capacity, and patients were treated like prisoners with little light, almost no furniture, and little heat during frigid months. Even in the 1980s, the criminally insane were still locked in cages. Charles Manson himself stayed here briefly. Thousands of patients are believed to have died in the asylum, many from neglect or failed psychiatric treatments, and their bodies were buried in mass graves on the hospital grounds. People have reported hearing voices holding full conversations within the walls, and staff members haunt the property to this day. Some psychiatrists were reportedly haunted by the ghosts of patients under their care, and one nurse was found dead at the bottom of a stairwell, while others were attacked and raped. Despite its dark history, the asylum remains a popular spot for ghost hunters and thrill seekers who come to witness the haunting of the staff and patients who never left. What happens in Rancho Los Amigos? Welcome to the Rancho Los Amigos Hospital, where the walls are filled with secrets and the ghosts of the past still linger. Once a place of healing, now a place of horror. The hospital may still be in use, but the abandoned parts of the facility hold a dark and twisted history that has been forgotten by time. Established in 1888, the hospital's walled-off sections are extremely old and extremely haunted. The LA County Poor Farm, an old mental asylum, was where the elderly, the homeless, the disabled, and the insane all lived together. But the horrors didn't end there. Nearby was an army base and even a small zoo, all abandoned by the 1980s. Enter Marcia and Kirsten, two ghost hunters who dared to venture into the abandoned area. They found a boarded-up ranch home and tons of abandoned buildings, walking around in a miniature city. But something wasn't quite right. Each place felt as if it was still occupied, and the atmosphere only seemed to get more and more threatening as they wandered further inside. When they reached the mental asylum, they discovered a lot of expensive lab equipment, books, magazines, and other important-looking items laying around. The buildings were old and full of toxic asbestos, and it was almost as if something had scared the workers off in a hurry. The experience left Marcia and Kirsten sure that they weren't alone during their adventure, and they were right. In 2006, United States Marines stumbled upon an old abandoned morgue area during a training drill. Inside an extremely old freezer, they found body parts that were at least 30 years old, if not older. Severed legs, feet, and shriveled up brains filled the room with a putrid stench. Are there more human remains on the property? Could this be why everyone who sneaks inside feels like they are being stalked at every turn? The hidden story of the hospital begs to be uncovered, revealing a darker reason why the workers suddenly closed off a large portion of the hospital from the rest of the world for good. Will you dare to venture inside and uncover the truth, or will you succumb to the terror that lurks within? Thank you for joining us in this journey through the macabre and terrifying world of horror and mystery. Keep in touch with us here in the Spooky Channel by liking and subscribing. Also hit that notification bell. We hope that our videos have kept you on the edge of your seat and made your heart race with fear.